Welcome to the Hot Girl School, the podcast where we redefine confidence and go way beyond the reflection you see in the mirror.
We're your hosts, Lauren and Danielle, here to empower you to embrace your inner radiance because confidence is so much more than looks.
Whether you're strutting into an event or conquering the boardroom, join us as we explore topics like self-love, inner strength, and owning your unique journey to confidence.
So grab your favorite drinky and turn up that volume because you're about to unleash your true potential.
Welcome back to the Hot Girl School. Today we are tackling a topic we all have experience with, and that is exes. We're diving into how past relationships affect confidence and future relationships, sharing fun stats, and giving practical tips on navigating exes in your life or your partner's life. We're going to keep it real, relatable, and of course, packed with hot girl energy. So, should we kick it off with some stats because they're kind of fun?
Let's do
So,
it.
here are some stats around exes. 60% of people report being contacted by an ex post breakup. 48% of people admit to checking their ex's social media after breaking up. Couples who openly discuss past relationships report higher trust and satisfaction in their current relationship. And 36% of people have gotten back together with an ex, but most of those relationships fail within 6 months. So, interesting statistics. We all have a past, right? And I thought it would be fun today if we could dig into, like, let's just share with our listeners how we feel about staying in touch with exes, like what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. You want to kick it off?
Yeah, so I have a very harsh opinion about it. I do not think there's any reason to stay in touch with an ex. I'm also not divorced and don't have children. I think for me, that's about the only reason that you would have contact with an ex. I don't know. I guess if there's business or dogs involved, like you just say goodbye, you figure it out, you cut it off. I don't really think that there is a need to stay in touch with that person. I also think it depends on the health of the current relationship. So if you're in a healthy relationship and it's open and it's not a big deal, that's fine. But if like the person who still talks to their ex makes the other person feel like that their ex is important, then they're like just stirring the shit
Yeah.
and giving the current person a reason to just like wonder. And you don't want to do that because if somebody loves you truly and unconditionally, they're not going to do that. They're going to put your mind at ease. Do you have the same opinion or do you have a different one?
Yeah, no, I totally do. So I personally am not in touch with exes. I don't think that there's a need to be. Same with my husband. And I think that like even like the social media stuff, like you shouldn't be following each other. There's no reason that you want to see that person's life or should want to see it. Now I don't have this personally, but I can see a situation where it would make sense. Like maybe you were friends and you tried the dating and you're like, no, 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 we're way better as friends. And in that circumstance, I think that it's really important that you have open honesty about like, hey, we did in fact like date at one point and we realized we are so much better as friends. And as long as you're being open and honest about it, but also to your point, like they should never feel like that person is more important than your person. So that's the only thing where I could see like maybe that is a scenario where it could be okay. But I'm 99.9% of the opinion that there's no reason for an ex in your present. They're an ex for a
Yeah,
reason.
I totally agree. I just, for a long time, I would keep them on like a happy birthday,
Yeah,
maybe a Merry Christmas, because maybe it just didn't end with bad blood.
sure.
There wasn't anything. It's just like you were a part of my life. You were important and special to me for a small period of time. And I just want to let you know I'm thinking of you today. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But at the same time, I think it depends, like you said, like where's
Yeah.
the trust factor? Like how far does that go? Do you still have people who like get drunk and call or text you? And then do you tell it to your significant other? Like it can get
Yeah.
really tangled. And
Yeah.
I do think that however you feel about that, your significant other's ex is how they teach you to feel.
Okay, so I love this because I think that there's a time and a place for it. Like we all have a past, right? We've established that. And I think that before you find your person, at least for me, I was still in contact with exes sometimes because you like it's until you find the one and you're like, this is my person, that you really don't want any of that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that we've all been in that place where we send the holiday text or we do the thing just to like keep it there because we haven't actually found our person. So if you're still staying in touch, maybe ask yourself like, how much do I value this current relationship? Because if you have those lingering conversations or you're checking their social profiles, there's probably something kind of off in the relationship that you're currently in. What's your policy on social media?
I have to nope, I gotta say, I do check exes, like, once a year. I'm like, "Oh, I wonder how
Okay.
they're doing." And most of them are blocked. So I unblock them and I check them out and I just wanna see I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Like, one was the very toxic one, and I kinda look and at the new girl and I'm like, "Oh, I wish I could just send you a message and let you know, get the
Let
fuck
me
out
save
right
you.
now because you have a lot of years of damage ahead of you to heal." And
Mhm.
then other people, it's just kinda like, "Oh, I just, like, I hope you're well." Like, it's just
Yeah,
simple, you know? But, yeah, so I mean, if you're obsessively checking, maybe that's a different story.
sure. So do you let me ask you this then, so do you follow them on social media then?
No, they're blocked.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you
because
just
I don't really
unblock them
want
to
them
check them.
knowing. What?
Yeah. You just unblock them to check them, and you're like, "I'm just curious," and then you're like,
Oh,
"Bye,
yeah,
you're blocked again."
and then they reblock. However, because I'm not as active on Facebook and
Mhm.
more active on Instagram, I will forget that we're still friends on Facebook, and then, like,
Yeah,
something will pop up in their thing, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot," but I feel like it's harmless on Facebook, I don't know why. On Instagram, it's, like, very purposeful when people, like, post a story or, they're trying to, like, get a
sure.
secret message out, I'm sure you've done that.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty much then we're both aligned on like no follow like you don't need to see each other. You don't need to be in each other's
Correct.
feeds. You don't need to be popping up. I totally agree
What
with that.
about staying in touch with the ex's family, but not the ex?
Ooh, this is a good one. See, I think, because I have some that like will comment on stuff, but I don't see like the X in the feed. So I didn't even think about that. This wasn't even on my radar. But there's some like family members. I think because you don't go in and you're like, okay, who am I connected to through you that we need to remove, right? So I feel like that one's okay as long as it's not your way to stay like you know if you're being nefarious or not. Like is that your
Correct.
way to still check on your ex or is it like
Correct.
no you're a big part of my life and I like that connection and I would love to see what's still going on in the cousin or the aunt or whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't bug me as long as there's no underlying secrets that are like, "Oh, I'm trying to get more information out." But yeah, I feel like that's a hard one because when you break up with someone, you break up with the family too.
Yeah.
And that can be sad if you have like a great relationship with whoever. You don't want to lose them.
Yeah, I mean, there's one stat that I was trying to find when I was preparing for this one that was around like what happens if a significant ex like because we have there's different levels of an ex, right? Like we
Mhm.
dated for a little while, didn't work out. Oh, we were like totally in love, thought he was the one, didn't work out. That kind of thing, right? And what happens like when they pop up later, like years, decades later? Do you
Yeah.
tell your significant other or not?
I think we've had this conversation offline. I do still have one. I'm gonna call you out right now, bro. I still have one who will message me. He messaged me
Yeah,
when we were in Serbia and I was visiting my boyfriend's family and he messaged me and then he blocks me. And I'm like, "What is the point? Why do you keep doing this?" And he's married, you know? So it's kind of like a why do I need to go tell him? Cuz he trusts my boyfriend, trusts me. I know there's absolutely nothing there on my end. So like kind of what's the point?
sure.
I What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it goes both ways. I think that if it's insignificant, like in your scenario where you're like, I'm not feeling anything, I'm not reaching back out, we're not having a chat, then yeah, like you're not doing anything wrong. So there's nothing to be said about. I think if it's a bigger instance or that person is asking to speak with you and you're like, I want to give them closure, I want to, talk to them because they asked for this, then I think that that is something you should share with your
Oh, that
significant other.
absolutely warrants like,
Yeah.
"Hey," to my wife or husband, like, "Hey, I got a situation and I just want you to
Yes.
know." Because it also tells the person who they're talking to, you have no power or influence over this situation.
Mhm.
Like, this is my life. I'm happy. You're
Yep.
not going to weasel your way back in. But the caveat is if you have two unhappy people, all one
Mhm.
person has to do is like dip the toe in the water. And if they get the good response, then now you have like
Slippery
essentially an
slope.
emotional, yeah, you have an emotional snowball that's about to happen.
Yep.
And then what?
Yeah.
You
So
start an emotional affair.
let's talk a little bit about that because these are all things that can happen, that like we're
Do
sharing things that
happen
have happened to us
all the
that
time.
are occurring, right? And so what do you do to manage, because we all have feelings, we're human. We all have insecurities, we all have things that we're working on. So when this stuff happens, like what are some things that we can share, even that we've done, to manage it and not feel any type of way about like questioning the relationship because an ex pops up?
Phew. It's just being honest with that person, and it goes both ways. It's like telling the person what you come to the relationship with, I guess your baggage. It's almost like you're
Mhm.
tattletaling on yourself about, "Hey, as we've talked about in other episodes, I don't want you to suffer from the last person," but so they kind of have to have an understanding. However, I have had that used against me like, "Oh, well, it sounds like you're still in love with him if you're talking about him." I'm like, no, I'm actually just trying to let you know that what you did bothers me because this happened to me.
Yeah.
So you have to have two emotionally mature people who want to have the same outcome and understand that I'm telling you about my past so that A, you don't hurt me, B, we don't have more explosions, and C, so that we can move forward together and like help each other and support each other.
Mhm.
What
Yeah, I
about you?
think that's the key. I think that's totally the key. So I think it all comes down to communication. And a lot
Mhm.
of the stuff that we're talking about today is a highlight on like where you're at in your healing journey, where
Yeah.
you from exes, like what happened in that relationship that caused them to be an ex, and are you carrying that into your new relationship? And what I think the big takeaway should be is that when you're with the one, you can have open dialogues about this stuff and it doesn't create those emotional triggers where you're starting to question, like, does he still like her? Does that mean that she's better? And you spiral and then you're becoming a PI. We've all done the PI work where we go
Yeah.
and like look at the page and we look on all like LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and
Venmo, that's where you
yeah,
catch everybody.
oh,
Venmo,
yeah, that's a good
that's a
one.
good one.
And, like, we've all done that. We're nodding our head being like, "Yeah, we're a PI," and that is the I feel like that's a natural, it's like a part of life. It's a rite of passage. I feel like all of us have to go through it. But once you're in the right one, you should be able to have open dialogue about the past and it not affect how you feel about each other or how you feel about yourself in the relationship. And I think that's a really key indication that, like, holy shit, I'm with somebody who really loves and cares about me because A, they're willing to talk about this, and B, it's not triggering me because I feel so safe in the relationship.
Yeah, that's huge. And
Mhm.
that's rare because
It's really rare.
you have to have a really, really healthy person. If you don't have two healthy people, you need one extremely healthy person who's going to teach the broken person who's
Yep.
ideally already done work on themselves, but they're going to teach like almost finish making that person whole and trusting that they can be in a good, healthy, quality, respectful, loving relationship. I had something to say, but I forgot.
Yeah, that happens all the time, right? Also, it's because we do all the things, right? We stack too much stuff. So I think that what you're saying though is interesting, right? Because you've got to be healthy. So in order for that communication, that open dialogue to occur when it comes to exes. And so something that I've kind of practiced is like, don't get in a relationship unless you're healed. Easier said than done, obviously.
Much easier said than
Yeah, but
done.
you can, like, you
But
can
take
pick
it and run
you
with
can,
it,
yeah,
people.
like, you can pick up the red flags, like, if these things are happening, then there's still healing to do, and if you can get to a place where you can heal before you get in a relationship, none of this stuff will feel hard.
Yeah, it won't. Although I do think that however much you do heal as a single person, once you get into your next relationship, that will actually test you or tell you how far you've come, how
Yep.
deep you've healed, because all of a sudden the little triggers will start popping up and you start having your outbursts or whatever they are. And then you're like, okay, I really thought I worked on this. But when you're single, you don't have anybody triggering you. Your friends
Mhm,
don't trigger you, your family, coworkers, they don't trigger you the way a romantic relationship triggers you. And that will also be a great mirror to look in and say, okay, this area still needs a little attention. What can I do? And like you said, communication. I think labeling a lot of stuff and understanding like what you're going through so you can communicate what's going on, what you need. Hey, this is
mhm.
what happened. I would appreciate it if you handled it like this, or remind me to be better in this situation, whatever it is. And that's a good way to like soften what it is you need, but you also have to make sure that person doesn't make you feel like an idiot, which if
You
they're
said
unhealed,
yeah.
they're going to make you feel like an idiot for trying to do
Yep.
it the right way and leave. I promise that is a red flag. Do not stay.
So those are such great points. And your past is always going to shape your future in a way. And so it's okay. Like everybody has it and it's a good thing to talk about, hey, like this happened to me, so I'm working through X because of it. And I want
Mhm.
you to know about it because I don't ever want to take it out on you what someone else did to me. And just like having that knowing is good and starting to practice it and having that awareness will really help, but it doesn't your exes can shape the approach you take in new relationships, good or bad, and just having that awareness is a starting point.
Yeah, I agree. Very, very, very well said.
Yeah. Okay,
This
so
is a
should we
this
wrap
is
up
a
with
a
some tips?
loaded
Anything else
topic.
you want? I know there's so many ways that we can go with this, and I think really like to bring it back to a foundation. It starts with communication and awareness in yourself and how you can do it. So some like key takeaways are going to be like setting boundaries, focusing on your growth is definitely going to be the key to moving forward. Practicing that communication is going to give you confidence in talking about where you come from. And if you are good and healed, maybe you don't have to. That's okay. Also, right?
Amen
So
to
just
you.
remember that exes are a part of the story, but you're writing the next chapter. So make it a bestseller, hotties, because you're in the driver's seat. If you resonated with this or you want to share some awkward stories that you've had with exes or some hot tips that could benefit the community, please reach out to us. And most importantly, please subscribe, rate this podcast. It helps get us out there to other listeners who will resonate with it. And most importantly, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, hotties. We're excited to hear your stories about your exes and how you feel.
Bring them, make us laugh.